Help me, my brother, can you lend me a hand as I walk through this land of confusion? If we give to each other, then there's nothing to take. Let's live life for the moment before it slips away.
I'm Jillian and this is my friend who? Or who?
Any one of those. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Like some go this way, some go that way. Right? Something like that. So no, I'm Jeff Holst, as I think most of our viewers probably already know since I've been on every episode. But hey, it's nice to introduce ourselves.
This is the Last Life Ever podcast, and we are so happy to have you here today. And we have a very special guest who will be coming up soon, Vinney Chopra. Vinney Smiles Chopra, and we're going to talk about what the smiles means when he comes on. And hopefully he can teach us a thing or two about positivity. And speaking of positivity, Jeff, we did something this weekend.
We did. I'm surprised we were able to do as much as we did this weekend, actually. But we came out with a very exciting new ebook, which we're giving away free right now at lastlifeever.com, called Discover Your Life's Purpose, Create a Happier, More Fulfilling Life so you can make an impact. And it was a great experience. It's a short little book, but it's chock full of practical tips of things that you could do to sort of figure out what it is that you want to do with the rest of your life. And since Last Life Ever is all about figuring out what you want to do with the rest of your life, this is the perfect little ebook for you.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Jeff, this was really important to me. Developing it made me really kind of figure out some of the own things in my own life. And I was really excited to get it out. And put it together and then go and read it and go, wow, I have to do a lot of the stuff in this book. And so I started this weekend, and I started with a brand spanking new planner.
Nice.
June to July or July to June, whatever you want to call it, 20 to 21. I bought this, guys. You don't have to buy a fancy planner. This planner was $3.99 at the 99-cent only store. Now, don't ask me why it's called the 99-cent only store when clearly they sell things that are more than 99 cents.
It ended in 99 cents though, so that's close enough. You actually can just use like a spiral notebook. You don't, because it's the planner. It's not that complicated. It's good if it has dates and stuff, but it's all about just writing down what your goals are and what you're going to do and when you want to get them done by. So you can organize yourself however you want. You can use an online planner, a lot of free resources, but for sure, buying a $4 book probably in most of our audience's budget.
Well, I'll tell you, I really, I kind of encourage it. My brain is very all over the place. I tend to be very scatterbrained. I mean, these are my notes in my regular notebook, as you can tell. Like, it's just all over the place. I write in the margins. There's like no rhyme or reason to anything. So when I have something that's nice and clean and gives me, direction on how to do something, I find it to be really, really valuable. So, and I've tried the bullet. There's a bullet planner or a bullet journal, they call it, where you organize your own thoughts. And I find that I don't do as well with that. So $3.99.
That's what I use. It's just a regular compensation book. These are $1.90 composition. Did I say compensation? It's how I make my money, by writing down notes to myself. What can I say?
That's awesome. So please go download the book. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. And I just think you'll find it incredibly valuable. to building your life's purpose.
It's really great, actually, and working with you on it, Jillian, has been really instructive too, because we each have different thoughts and understanding of how to do this, and of course we did some other research besides that, and I think we both learned a lot just by putting the book together, and I feel like our listeners and the future readers of that book will be benefiting from it. Now, we do have another book as well that we want to talk about just briefly, and that's just a reminder, and that's the Coronavirus Collective, which is available on Amazon. Now, this book is really special to us too, because it also fits with the mission of Last Life Ever, and that is what we're trying to give back. And so this is a book that when you read it, you're going to get all sorts of ideas about how to deal with adversity, how to be positive and motivated in spite of the coronavirus. So it's all written in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the coronavirus shutdown by 30 different authors, I think 31 different authors. And each person had their own unique perspective, and there's people from all over the world that wrote in there. And so it's been really, really great. One girl in particular grew up as a nomad in Mongolia, and her chapter is amazing. And one of Jillian's friends who lives in Mozambique wrote an amazing chapter. It's just people all over the world writing about how they're dealing with it. And then the best part of it is we're not making money on this book either. So we're giving one book away free. And this one, when you buy it on Amazon for $10 on Kindle or $20 for paperback, 100% of the profits are going to 4 charities that Jillian and I picked. So if you buy this book, you're going to be making a charitable contribution, or will be making a charitable contribution on your behalf to those charities. And they're great charities, feeding the hungry, providing food and water, medical emergency assistance for people in northern Kenya. I mean, just all kinds of really great stuff. And so I would definitely recommend, if you have not bought this book, that you go buy it as well.
Yeah, no, the other thing I want to say is about Coronavirus Collective is that it's also free if you have Kindle Unlimited. So you don't have to buy it if you have Kindle Unlimited. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, we ask you to please just download it even if you don't read it, because then, we get credit for it. So,
well, and also the more pages they read, the more credit we get too. So obviously you should read it because it's good and it was helpful. And I don't know about you, Jillian, but I was kind of in a funk those first couple of weeks of the shutdown. I started reading these chapters as they came in, and it motivated me to be more productive and, and a much happier. Not that I was, terribly unhappy, because I'm naturally happy, much like our guest, who I'm super excited about. So we're almost right.
I'm very excited about our guest too, but I also want to say you were in a funk for the first couple of weeks. I'm still in a funk. So that's why I'm super excited about our guest today in particular. And without further ado, I do want to bring him on, but
Wait, before you do that, I got to tell you a joke, because I think this might be just the thing to pull you out of your funk. Okay.
Oh.
So this is it. This is the best. This is the best joke I've ever told on the show. Well, except for that one about paint, because that one was pretty good. But how do you make a mouse smile?
I don't know how.
Say cheese. That's a real cheesy joke.
Okay, mine is not as good. All right. I hope I don't screw it up now. Knock, knock.
Who's there? Who's there? Yeah, I think maybe you're having a delay.
I can't hear anything. What's going on? Well, this is unfortunate because I can't hear anything. So, Jeff, I'm going to leave it to you to
absolutely
introduce
Jillian,
our guest. And my joke is going to have to wait for another day.
Well, maybe Jillian will be able to tell the joke after we bring on Vinny Smiles Chopra, who is one of my favorite people. I only met him recently a few weeks ago, but I read his book before, which is a great book, by the way, on apartment syndication. Vinny is a constantly positive person who has had an amazing life experience. He came to the United States with only $7 in his pocket, and now just a few years later, a few is relative, right? A few years later, he has over 4,000 apartment units to his name, and he does everything. He just told me he's starting his 5th show, so he's gonna have 5 weekly podcasts instead of just 4 that he does now. I feel like such an underachiever with only 2 shows, but Vinney, it's so great to have you here. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jillian. Oh my gosh, I just loving hearing and watching you. Jillian, that notebook you showed, the gold book, I love the colorfulness of it. I love the big size of it. I mean, that is amazing, because we need to think big, and big things come with big goals. And if we write and we picture and we draw in it and, make it a part of us, right? Who we are and where we want to lead those goals to, and put the deadlines. And that's so exciting. And I do want to take a moment and say, everybody should buy that. I written it out. I'm going to buy physical copy and Kindle copy and everything on the coronavirus collection. Thank you so much. And then also the ebook. Fabulous, I mean,
thank you.
We are the CEO of our life, right? We call, everybody knows that. But who we are is so important, that we make the best use of everything we got. I mean, every single thing, every inch, every day should be a masterpiece, I call it, right? I mean, that's the name of the game.
Yeah, no, it's great. We got to remember that point right there, because we're just going to pull that out and use it on every social media. It won't even be Jillian and I on social media anymore. It will be just Vinny Chopra.
Stop it. Listen, I want to talk about some really important things. First of all, you came here with $7 from India. How did you even do that? What happened? Take us through that.
Jillian, actually, I grew up in a very humble, background, in the sense we have 6 siblings and lived in 1-bedroom apartment there in New Delhi, small town on the south of New Delhi, Moti Bagh. And I always, our parents, really, my dad, he held a school. I have mentioned that in some of the podcasts too. Every night he held a school where all the siblings had to study. We had to study what we learned and study what the teacher was going to teach next day. This is in elementary school now, then junior high, then high school, everything. So our whole family, just like all Indian, parents also, they want you to become an engineer or a doctor. I became an engineer, mechanical engineer. I always wanted to come to USA. It fascinated me. My uncle came here back in the 60s and so forth. So I thought, well, maybe he can sponsor me or something. And that's what I did. I became a mechanical engineer, worked, and then came here for MBA, Master's in Business Administration, with $7. And I had to earn money because I didn't want to be a burden, right? Even though my uncle and aunt wouldn't have mind. But then I sold books, Bible books, encyclopedias, all that stuff. So that converted me to a salesperson. Hold on. A mechanical engineer into a salesperson. I never ever thought I would be. But then I just loved the marketing, motivation, and all that. So essentially, I came here with big dreams. You could say that, with thick accent. Nobody could understand me. People can't understand me. But, people just let me in. We were selling Bible books and encyclopedias outside Atlanta. And people couldn't understand me. They just said, come on in, with the hospitality, right? Southern hospitality. And I just started selling a lot of books and encyclopedias. And I got given the name Smile because everybody said, Vinny, you smile a lot, So my trophies started, they took Kumar out. That's my middle name, real middle name. They put Smile in parentheses. And I've had it for 43 years now. Oh, that's
fantastic. So, okay. So you come over here, you're going to get an MBA, you're living with your uncle, you have to make your way because you don't want to be a burden on your uncle. So you start selling these books. And then what made you transition from selling books? Well, what was the next thing you did after selling the books? Because clearly you did way more than sell books.
You're right. I mean, I was only doing this in the summer months only because this company works with college students from Stanford all the way to George Washington, all across. 4,000, 5,000 college students. They go every summer away from their home and they just sell these encyclopedias. If somebody knocked on your door with some books, that was from that company. But then, I had to get a full-time job. Otherwise, USA government will send me back. So that's when I did the full-time position. It was a sales commission job, 10,000 per year, state commission of selling fundraising products, fundraising items, and raising money and things like that. That's how I started my career. And then got into motivation speaking and public speaking and raising, lots and lots of monies for nonprofit and profit organizations, and started into real estate, buying homes like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that, there's so much there that I want to unpack, actually. So like you said that you got into motivational speaking, and I think that like for a lot of people in our group, they go to a lot of motivational speakers. They follow a lot of these people online. And, last time I talked to you, you talked about how important mentorship was. And I think that motivational speakers can be a form of a mentor for people in this day and age. So like, how long did you do that? And like, what kind of stuff were you talking about? Like, what was your what was the deal you were doing?
Totally, Jeff. I would say definitely the total fear of just speaking in front, right? The fear of height is number one fear. Then the second one is speaking in front of a group. You can make a complete, out of you, right? When you don't know things, people are laughing and this and that. I still remember when I had to present myself in front of about 20 people, maybe just 20. And I was trembling, literally. I mean, this was about 3 years since I'd come from India at that time. I think 3.5 years. I had my 3x5 cards. I had written down all my points so that if I forget or I just go blank, things like that, right? So essentially, preparation was the main thing. And I found out more and more. I really memorized and I practiced in front of the mirror in my apartment. Before I went out there, I did better. But then the worst thing I found out was I was making an impact, but not really. I think I was making people laugh and things like that, I remember. And I said, oh my gosh, am I a comedian or am I a really good speaker? So the biggest thing was to really hunker down and see very methodically what I want to cover, right? Getting my ideas across. And then I started reading lots and lots of books. I mean, all kind of books on presentations and things like that. So what my main job was to raise money. Actually, can you believe it, Nami? God prepares you for certain purpose, right, in life. Here, an engineer turned into a salesperson, into a motivational speaker for raising money, thousands of dollars for nonprofit and profit. And then now I'm raising millions of dollars. So my whole life has been just raising kind of money,
No, that's great.
Okay, I got so many questions because,
please.
You grew up in New Delhi, which is not really known as a wealthy part of India. You were in a one-bedroom apartment. There were 6 children. You come over here with $7 in your pocket, and you're in Atlanta in the summer. There's some details here that I think need to be fleshed out. You're in Atlanta in the summertime, walking around selling books. It must have been difficult to smile all the time, Vinney.
I know you're right, Jillian. I think you're so right about it. I think the thing is, once you come and you know that you got to make it happen for you, right? There is no way I'm going back to India. There is no way that I'm, making a, my uncle actually shared with me that, he paid for my one particular semester, $1,500. It was pretty cheap back then. But then he said, he didn't know where the next money will come from, right? Or something. But in my mind, I was thinking, no, I got to earn the money. So when you have that burning desire that you're going to make it happen no matter what, right? That's what kept me out there, to be truthful. I mean, it was not the heat. it was, we were 4 people actually in the whole camp, because, the company sends you with somebody with a car, then you're walking. So the person with the car drops you in the streets at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and you don't have nowhere to go but keep on knocking on doors. Then they come back at 9 o'clock at night to pick you up.
Huh.
That's the only thing. You got to make it happen. And I didn't have a bicycle or anything, nothing at all. After about a month and a half, I remember one of the very nice, I would say customer client, when I sold some educational books, she said, "Vinney, are you walking all day long? That's what you're doing?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Well, I've got this bicycle. Take this, So I would use that bicycle to go around, put the bicycle back at their place. The next day, then I got hit by a car. Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Oh my God. You got hit by a car. What happened?
I know. It was, this was in the outskirts of Atlanta, right? Mableton, Austell, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of Marietta and all those areas there. And the fun part is, I want to throw in something here, where I was selling books, like, with few dollars in my pocket, right? And did we get frozen? I think we got frozen here a little bit.
No, we're good.
I'll keep on talking. Huh?
Keep talking. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I'm good. Okay. So essentially what happened was, where I was just knocking on the doors here in the summer of 1976, I ended up purchasing $23 million worth of real estate apartments in the same town. So that was very, very exciting, for me to close the gap, close the loop, actually. Looks like, have I lost you, or you are able?
No, we're still here.
No.
Oh, you're...
Now we lost
okay.
you.
Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. I don't know why. It seemed like it just went shh.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Answering your question, Jillian.
I am.
No problem. No, I was going to say, Jillian. No, go ahead. Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think it was my desire that I want to make it happen, because I know 2 of the people quit the first week. And then the 10th day, somebody else quit, from our thing. I was the only guy left. Then they took me to another camp nearby. And then I was over there with them throughout the summer. So you're right. It was a lot of rejection, lot of, what's the word? I mean, you have to really mean that you are going to stick it out there 80 hours a week, not 40. Actually, these students, who do this book sales and all that, they work 80 hours a week, 80 hours, 6 days a week. And 7th day, you did your laundry and all that. And then you travel 2 hours to go meet in a sales meeting to get fired up for the next week.
Wow. That's a hard life. But, I think sometimes when you are in a situation where you have no other choice, right? Like you decided, this is what I want to do. I want to stay in America. I have to figure this out. Yeah. When you put yourself in that position, it's a big motivator, right? It really can be. And, in my own life, when I've dealt with hardship is when the best things have happened. Yes. That's when I decided to get into real estate, right? Like when I was dealing with lots of problems, and it's counterintuitive, but sometimes out of whatever's going on, you kind of like rise up like a phoenix out of that, and you're just good to go. So, and that sounds like that's kind of what you were doing. You're in this tough situation and you're like, I've got to figure this out. I'm just going to go do it.
So true. And, I kind of emerged as pretty good. I made some money, saved some money. Then you come back again the next summer, if you are able to have the gumption. So I did it second summer. I took more students from George Washington University along, because you recruit also. And then you bring more people. And then third summer, I went again. So second summer, I went to Pulaski, Virginia. That's where I sold with my team and all that. Then third summer, I sold in Aiken, South Carolina. And that's when I finished my whole MBA and everything. Then you can't sell after that. It's only for college students to earn money. Then I got a permanent job. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you first came to the United States, was your plan always to get into real estate, or did you have other plans?
No. I didn't know what real estate meant. We lived in one bedroom apartment with one living room and one hallway, 8 of us. So every night we would convert the living room and the hallway into bedrooms, right? And so forth like that. And then in the summer months in India, we'll sleep outside, like in front of our apartment. It's very common there. You sleep on the roof or you sleep on the, outside
Sure.
with the cots and all that. No, actually, I really did not know about real estate. Actually, I didn't even know real estate myself when I was in Ohio or in Washington, D.C. It just so happened 40 years back. By the way, we just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
Oh,
My wife and I.
congratulations.
Yeah. So that was a milestone. And we moved to California near San Francisco area. We live in Danville, Blackhawk now, in there. And but when we moved here, my other friends had some real estate experience and they were buying rental properties and all that. This is 40 years back, literally. And I'm starting to listen, what are they talking about? Right. So that's what got us started. And we bought one home in the Central Valley in Modesto for $65,500. It turned to be $325,000. What? I said in few years, it's so much appreciation. It just blew my mind. Then my wife and I started saving money, buying in Arizona, in Texas, all over.
That's great. All right, so I have a question for you, and it's about your smile philosophy, because you're always smiling, you're always happy, you're always positive. Now, I personally never have bad days. This is something that I gave up when I was 17, and I remember the day I gave it up. And I'm wondering for you, did you just get born smiling, or was there something that changed in your life that made you happy, and then ever after that you were just happy?
That's a good point. I don't know much about any how I was kind of growing up. I was a pretty determined guy. My friends tell me, who have been with me for so many years from engineering school and all, they say that I was very goal oriented. I was more focused, that kind of thing. But smile, somehow, when they put my name Smile on the trophies and the plaques, I said, I kind of like that. So that way it got me going.
So sort of self-fulfilling kind of thing. Once you kind of identified with, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. For me, I tell people all the time I never have bad days. So now I can't have bad days, because if I have a bad day, then I made a liar out of myself. And so it's kind of the same thing for you. Everyone knows you. You're Vinny Smile Chopra, right? Like, you have to smile, like you don't have a choice anymore. And that's a good way to live, right? You were telling us off the air that your name means what again?
Oh, happiness. Actually, Vinod, Vinod, is my real name, which in our language in India means happiness. I said, oh my gosh, I got to be happy. I have to live up to my name, right? But I have been kind of very positive person. I know my wife tells me, I wrote that book, Syndication Made Easy. And she read it and everything. She says, Vinny, that's great. She said that literally. She says, you know what? It's for limited audiences. I've been living with you 39 years. This was last year now. You need to write a book on positivity. Because I've been married to you. You're the most positive person I've ever seen in my life. I got up in the morning, next morning. Guess what? I started writing the book on positivity.
Just take action. That man takes action.
I love that. By the way, today is the 1-year anniversary of your book. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is. 1-year anniversary of this book. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yes, syndication maybe.
And how about the other book that you started writing last year? Is it almost ready?
Oh, this is also almost ready. It just came from the publisher today. So we're going to do the final touches on it. And then it will be published within a couple of weeks, I think,
That's great.
Thank you so much. Thank
For
you.
anybody who's listening to this and is not watching this, the book is called Positivity Brings Profitability, and it's not yet available, but it will be available soon on Amazon. I'm assuming you can go buy it there. But Vinny, okay, like it's real. I'm just amazed by this, and I think it's because I'm like in a period right now that I've never really found myself in before, which is I just feel like I am in that rut we were talking about. Coronavirus has done some damage to me and my ego and everything else. And with that being said, I mean, I just find it so fascinating that just smile, 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 get through it. And I'm going to remember that. And I mean, I've learned a lot from Jeff alone with him, his bad days philosophy. When I catch myself saying I'm having a bad day, I remember what Jeff says. And now I want to remember what you said. But what are some habits that you've developed that have helped you come up with this philosophy? Because it can't just be, I'm just going to turn it on. There's got to be some habits you have.
Totally, Jillian. I thank you so much for asking that. The biggest thing which in my mind I've come to realize is when the things happen, they happen for a reason. So I mentally accept the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. I mean, to be truthful, I was getting sued, in the real estate, you get sued here, there, everywhere, right? And my attorney said, my real estate attorney said, Vinny, oh my gosh, this is pretty bad. That lawsuit was going on for 2.5, 3 years. And I didn't have to pay a dime in that lawsuit. We were thinking I may have to put $3 million I have to pay, but it just worked out all. But see, if I had kept that for 2.5 years, it would have paralyzed me really, in my thinking and what I wanted to do and things like that. So I just accepted it. And I said, you know what can I do about it? Right. So finding a solution always gets you to be more constructive, I think, rather than thinking about why poor me, why this way, why that way, and all that, right? And as a matter of fact, I don't really say too much about that, but our daughter got diagnosed with aplastic anemia in our lifetime. This has just happened 6 years back. And we didn't know if she'll survive. Literally, I'm saying these things which we never have mentioned that before. But guess what? That positivity really got me going. And I started my Monil investment group on the floor of our apartment in Bethesda, Maryland, because I had time and I left my old company with my old partner. I said, I'm going to start my own company brand new. And we have done extremely well. And this was when we left our whole home for a year and a half in Danville, totally empty. I mean, everything here, but we just moved within 3 days to Bethesda, Maryland, next to NIH, National Institute of Health, because our daughter had to go through procedures and things like that. Thank goodness she's fully recovered. She's a vice president of our operations of the company and everything. So I'm just saying that to say a lot of people could have been just totally paralyzed, but my thinking was, okay, how can I save our daughter's life? That was the number one thing. But if you have that, and we talked all over the world to find the bone marrow transplants and all that matching and all that stuff, so it all worked out. But how do I look at it, Jillian? Is that, okay, whatever had to happen, it's happened. So now the other thought I have is God only puts in your lap something of negative or positive that you can handle. See, that's my other thinking. Always is that you can really, you can handle it. You can handle it like anything, right? I got another lawsuit 2 years back or something. Somebody tried to swindle me on EEOC claim, right? Racial. And I've got all the people in my 135 full-time people in my organization, right? And I've got no discrimination whatsoever. So they were trying to swindle me for $700,000. Now, I could have taken a very long way down, and say, why me and everything. But I only paid $23,000. because everything was false. So again, a lot of bad things happen to us. They do. And I can think of a lot of other situations, but how we treat them and nip it in the bud, or we take them on the chin and we say, okay, how can I really take care of this particular situation, right?
See, and I love that. So I always say that good and bad things happen to everyone. And the trick is just to sort of focus on the positive stuff and minimize the negative stuff. And then the other thing I always say too is the moment you accept responsibility, and I stole this from someone, but as soon as you accept responsibility for everything in your life, that's when you can have the power to change anything in your life.
Yeah.
And listen, I want to tell you, thank you for sharing the stuff about your daughter, because bone marrow biopsies, bone marrow transplants, one of the most horrible things I've ever had to deal with in my life. I had several bone marrow biopsies.
Oh, did you? Oh.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with leukemia about 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and fortunately I'm still here too, right? So it could have been a lot worse. Yeah. But my brother came into the hospital that night when I was first diagnosed, and he said to me, "I bet today you're having a bad day." Like, he almost wanted to prove me wrong. Like, and I was like, no, actually, it was a pretty good day. Like, I didn't get diagnosed till 10 at night, and I went, the rest of the day was pretty good. And by the next morning, I'd clarified my thoughts, and I'd learned a whole lot about myself, thinking that I was going to die. I spent 4 days believing I was not going to live more than a few more weeks. And fortunately, that wasn't the case. But that was the best thing. That's what I was saying earlier. When you go through adversity, that's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Last life ever would not exist if I hadn't been diagnosed with leukemia. I know that for sure. I wouldn't be a real estate investor, honestly, if I hadn't been diagnosed with leukemia. I quit practicing law. I was a lawyer at the time. I changed my whole life around because I realized you only have one life, and you have to live the best version of your life possible. Yeah. And I think sharing stories like that about what you went through with your daughter and what she went through, it helps people so much, because so many people go through that. And when I started getting up on stage and telling my story, I had literally every time I talked about leukemia, someone would come up to me and say, my mom had leukemia, my dad had cancer, all the time. It touches so many people. And when you deal with those kind of medical things, I mean, Jillian is dealing with stuff with her family right now, and the coronavirus, and there's so many people that are dealing with that stuff. Yeah. And I feel like you have to share that stuff in order to help the world. I mean, I feel like we owe it to the world to share with them that no matter where you find yourself, as long as you're still alive, you can figure out a way to make a positive thing come from that. We had a guest on before too, on Memorial Day, who lost his son in Afghanistan. And he talked about how depressing it was, but then he talked about how the way he got through it was to find 3 positive things that came from that. Wow. And I mean, if you can find 3 positive things that come from that, you can probably find something positive in everything. And so, I mean, those things have been, and that's why I love this show so much. And I'm so glad you're on the show to share this stuff with us. So
thank you. Thank you. No, that is so true. I mean, we just have a very tender life, very short span. I always think about, these dinosaurs came and all, and how the whole millions of years, right? If you put it in a line, our let's say 90 years of age or 100 years of age, not even a dot, literally not even a dot at all. And, so we should not take things too seriously, I think is the word. And it's hard. It's hard, really. It's hard, because to tell your mind when it's really seeing all the negatives, to be able to say, no, you cannot, think that way. I think it takes time. It takes time. And I talk about it in my podcast also quite a lot. But the thing is, it's slowly, if you start putting more positive things, then the negative thoughts kind of they're replaced, they get out, and then more positive things start coming. And that's when you see transformation. And the other metaphor I use quite a bit, actually, one of the saint mentioned or something in India, was like the sorrow, the unhappiness comes into any family's life to see you really sweat and get angry and be really fearful and talk about all the bad things and sorrow. But if you greet the pleasure with the same notion of happiness and the sorrow also, if you meet the sorrow with more positivity, maybe metaphorically, the sorrow will leave your household. Because
Oh, wow.
her
Okay.
purpose is different.
Sorry about that.
Sarah's purpose is to make you mad and angry and really, all those things. But if you meet that sorrow with pleasure and whatever, not pleasure, but with positive thoughts, that it will leave you. I mean, just so that also kind of stays in my mind. Hey, okay, we got this thing now. How can we get rid of it, right? How can we take action? I don't know if that helps with anybody.
Oh, I think it does.
Vinney, you and I were talking, previously, and you were talking about one thing that you do every morning is something that I used to do, and after hearing you talk, I'm gonna get back into this habit. I'm doing it after today. And what habit is that?
That is miracle morning. I really do that every morning. When I get up, I pay gratitude. I think it's so important that we pay gratitude to our, of course, ancestors, parents, grandparents, and everybody who brought us into our life. And then our family. I mean, who I am today. It's a big combination of my wife, our children, Neil and Monica, what pleasure they've given, our relatives and all. Then also we need to give gratitude to our team of people, who give their best every day, in every part of our property management sides, operations side, our accounting department side. So pay gratitude, and to the investors and to the clients, prospects, all those, things are so savor that somebody just wrote it. That's so wonderful, because in the morning, if we can really align ourselves with positive thoughts, paying gratitude, and do yoga, exercise, like I'm on elliptical 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and I conduct meetings also, like I was sharing with you all, with the iPad on there, so that it does not even feel that I'm doing exercise, but I get it done. And so miracle morning, I would say. Is that what you were thinking? No.
Miracle morning, yeah, no, and that's what Savers is, right? So for those of you who don't know Miracle Morning, I'll just go through it really fast. It's silence, affirmation. So you're going to sit and say, oh, you've got the book right there.
Miracle
Look at
Morning
that.
and Miracle Equation from my friend Hal Elrod, who wrote this book, Go Abundance.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who unfortunately had.
It's a great book. I mean, I read, there's a whole series of them, of course, not just those two. I mean, it's got other ones that are written by other authors.
Yes.
A Miracle Morning for Parents, Miracle Morning for Real Estate Investors, all that kind of stuff. Miracle Morning Millionaire. So they're all really great. But Jillian, I think we cut you off, but the point is there's silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and then scribing, which is like journaling or writing, which is something we were talking about earlier. I think Jillian might have froze, so we're going to have to keep going without her for a second here. She's been having internet issues all year, it seems like. But anyway, the Miracle Morning is really, really great. And I know it's something Jillian wants to get back to. I think she was saying that earlier.
Totally. I think you'll see the transformation as we do it. And, like in the COVID, I've lost weight. I love it, because exercising and eating right and not eating outside. Literally, I think we all put so much weight when we are eating outside, all these good food and unhealthy food, I think I should say, but I think just having that alignment every morning is so important, so that you are able to get focused, get charged. See, the other thing I also talk about is the preparation time. A lot of time we don't take time to ourselves in really, preparing, because preparation time, somebody wrote somewhere, 1 minute will save 10 or 20 times that much, or something like that, So
yeah, it's really great. And listen, if people haven't read Miracle Morning, they definitely should. If you since you're friends with Hal, you should tell him to come on our show. Tell him how great it is.
Oh, that'll be
because
amazing.
we would love to have Hal on our show because he is fascinating. He has an amazing life story. And I would really encourage people who don't know who Hal Elrod is to check that out. Super excited about your new book. Positivity brings profitability. Looks like Jillian might have spelled profitability wrong there, but
I did spell it wrong. I gotta hide that.
But she did it quickly.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we didn't know the name of here. Look, I'll tell you what we'll do. If you want more information about Vinney's new book, you can probably find it at VinneyChopra.com. Sure. And listen, Vinney, we really appreciate you coming on to the show. Is there anything that you want to tell our audience before you jump off that you think is just the super most important wisdom that you have to impart?
I would say definitely move the envelope. I mean, every day should be a masterpiece. I always say that, make the best of it. But, we cannot change the last 30 seconds. So never dwell on the past. Just never, because you cannot change it. It's gone. We're talking about yesterday. We're talking about last week. Don't worry about it. Whatever happened, it happened. But we can change the state of mind today and what will happen tomorrow, which will happen in the next 30 seconds or 30 minutes or 1 hour. We could change that. So never dwell on the past. Just learn from it, but move forward. But take massive action. Positivity.
I love it. And we know what you're going to do in the next 30 seconds because you told us you're going to run outside and get in your swim pool.
Jump in the pool, right?
We don't want to keep you away from that anymore. So thank you so much for coming on. Jillian, do you have any final words of wisdom? Are you good?
I love it. I can't wait to get back into the Miracle Morning tomorrow. Thank you so much, Vinney. Everybody go visit VinneyChopra.com. And the book is called Positivity Brings Profitability. I do know how to spell profitability. I'm sorry I didn't spell it right. All right, everybody, have a wonderful week.
God bless
and
you
just remember,
both.
this is your last life ever.